The hospital waiting room in downtown New York was filled with the usual hum of machines, footsteps, and distant conversations, but for me, time felt frozen. My wife and I had been waiting for this ultrasound with so much hope. We had prayed for good news, imagining the doctor's smile and the reassurance that everything was fine. Instead, I noticed something strange in his eyes when he looked at the screen. His calm professional expression suddenly shifted into something else, something almost fearful. It was the kind of look that makes your stomach twist before a word is even spoken. He gently asked my wife to step out for a few minutes, pretending it was for routine paperwork. I followed his instructions without suspicion, but the tension in his voice raised a silent alarm in my mind. When she was gone, he turned back to me, lowering his voice to a whisper. His hands trembled slightly as he held the ultrasound report. Then he looked straight into my eyes and said words that cut deeper than any knife could. For your own good, you should divorce her. My mind went blank. Divorce? From the woman I loved? For a moment, I wondered if I had heard him wrong. I asked him to repeat himself, and he did, this time even firmer, as if warning me about some hidden danger I could not yet see. My chest tightened with panic, anger, and disbelief. Doctors were supposed to bring healing, not break families apart with cryptic advice. What was it that he saw in those grainy black and white images that made him so desperate for me to leave her? I wanted answers, but all I got was his silence and shaken expression. The sterile smell of the hospital suddenly felt suffocating. My thoughts raced wildly. Was there something dangerous about the baby? Was my wife at risk? Or was the danger somehow connected to me? The doctor avoided my questions, telling me only that it was for my safety, and that the less I knew, the better. That kind of answer doesn't bring peace, it brings torment. I felt as though I had been pulled into a nightmare where the truth was locked away, and I was left standing in the dark, afraid to move forward. I kept picturing my wife's face, the way she had smiled moments earlier, holding my hand tightly as the ultrasound began. She had been so excited, so full of dreams about our future together. How could I possibly walk out of this room and tell her what the doctor just told me? My heart screamed to protect her, to ignore his words and stand by her side no matter what. But the fear in his eyes was haunting. It was not the fear of a man guessing, it was the fear of a man who knew something terrible. Minutes passed like hours as I sat there, replaying his words over and over again. Divorce her. The sound of those two words felt like a curse, echoing inside my mind. I wanted to storm out, take my wife's hand, and pretend this conversation had never happened. But the weight of his warning chained me to my seat. I thought of the countless stories in America where families are broken by secrets, lies, or medical tragedies. Was I about to become one of them? Was my love story about to be rewritten by one doctor's command? When my wife returned, she noticed the change in my face immediately. She asked if everything was all right, her voice soft and caring, the way it always had been. I forced a smile, swallowing the storm inside me. I told her everything was fine, though my voice cracked with the effort of holding back the truth. She trusted me completely, leaning against me with relief. And in that moment, the guilt began eating me alive. How could I keep such a terrible secret from her? But how could I tell her without destroying her spirit forever? The rest of the appointment blurred into meaningless words and hollow reassurances from the staff. I nodded, signed papers, and walked beside her as if nothing had changed, yet everything had changed. Every step felt heavier than the last. Outside, the city was alive with its usual chaos, horns blaring, people rushing, street vendors calling out, but none of it reached me. All I could hear was that voice in my head, warning me to leave her, to break apart the life we had built together. My heart and my mind were at war, and I was losing to both. That night, I sat in our small apartment staring at the ceiling while she slept peacefully beside me. She dreamed with a soft smile, probably imagining the baby we would soon welcome into the world. Meanwhile, I wrestled with a decision no man should ever face. Should I obey the doctor's terrifying warning and walk away from her forever? Or should I hold on to the love we shared, risking whatever danger he believed was hidden in that ultrasound? The questions clawed at me, but no answer brought peace. Every choice felt like a betrayal. As the hours dragged on, I realized something that broke me completely. No matter what I decided, my life would never be the same again. The doctor's words had poisoned my heart, planting a fear that would never leave me. Even if I stayed, would always wonder what he saw, always live with suspicion and dread. And if I left, I would carry the guilt of abandoning her when she needed me most. That night, in a city that never sleeps, I felt like the loneliest man alive, trapped between love and fear, between truth and silence. I walked out of that hospital like a man carrying a coffin inside his chest. The New York evening was loud with honking cars, flashing lights, and the endless rush of people, but for me, it all faded into silence. My wife's voice calling after me still echoed in my ears, but I couldn't turn back. My feet moved on their own, carrying me farther and farther away from the life we had built. Each step felt like betrayal, yet I couldn't stop. The doctor's words haunted me like chains I could not break. I remember standing at the corner of Fifth Avenue, staring at my reflection in the glass of a closed storefront. My face looked hollow, pale, almost unrecognizable. I wasn't the same man who had walked into the hospital just hours earlier, holding his wife's hand with hope. I was now someone broken, stripped of courage, and swallowed by fear. People brushed past me, busy with their own lives, completely unaware that my world had just collapsed. I wanted to scream, to ask someone what I should do, but I stayed silent, drowning in my own confusion. That night, I didn't go home. Instead, I wandered the streets until exhaustion forced me to sit on a park bench near Central Park. The city lights glowed around me, but I felt trapped in darkness. I replayed every moment with her, our wedding day, the promises we made, the late-night laughter, the dreams we shared about raising a family together. All of it now felt like fragile glass shattering in slow motion. I wanted to believe love could conquer fear, but the doctor's warning had carved a wound too deep inside my soul. The days turned into weeks, and I kept my distance. I avoided her calls, ignored her messages, and made excuses to mutual friends. She must have cried 1,000 times, wondering why her husband suddenly disappeared, why I abandoned her in the most vulnerable moment of her life. The guilt crushed me every single day, yet I couldn't bring myself to face her. I told myself it was for her safety, for mine, for reasons I barely understood. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was running, not from her, but from my own fear. Every night, I lay awake in a cheap motel room on the outskirts of the city, staring at the ceiling and hearing her voice in my mind. "Why did you leave me?" I imagined her asking, tears streaming down her face. I wanted to pick up the phone, to rush back and beg for forgiveness, but I convinced myself it was too late. The longer I stayed away, the heavier the distance became. In America, people talk about freedom, about chasing dreams, but I felt like a prisoner of a decision I never wanted to make. Months later, I heard from a distant friend that she had moved back to her parents' house in New Jersey. She had given birth, but no one told me whether the baby was healthy or not. The uncertainty tore me apart. I pictured her holding the child, her eyes filled with both joy and sorrow, whispering to the baby about the father who vanished. That image burned me from the inside, but I didn't have the strength to see it for myself. I lived like a ghost, wandering streets, working odd jobs, pretending to survive while my heart rotted away. Time did not heal the wound. Instead, it deepened it. Every happy family I saw on the subway, every father holding his child at a park, reminded me of the life I had thrown away. I told myself I had no choice, that the doctor's warning was absolute, but in quiet moments, I knew the truth. I had abandoned love out of fear. America is filled with second chances, but I never gave myself one. I chose silence over truth, escape over courage, and that decision rewrote the story of my life. Years slipped by, and I became a stranger to myself. The man who once dreamed of building a family, who believed in love stronger than storms, was gone. In his place stood someone hollow, a man who drifted through jobs, friendships, and apartments like a shadow. People would ask me about my past, and I would change the subject. I buried the memories so deep that no one knew the pain I carried. Yet every night, when I closed my eyes, I saw her face and the faint outline of a child I had never held. Now, when I walk through the busy streets of New York, I see reflections of myself everywhere, people carrying silent burdens, secrets they can never share. I realize I am not alone in my pain, but that doesn't make it easier. I wonder sometimes if she ever forgave me, if the child ever asks about the father who disappeared. Maybe they've moved on, built a new life without me, free from the shadow of my weakness. Maybe that's for the best. But knowing that doesn't ease the ache that still lingers inside me every day. Looking back, I know that leaving was the greatest mistake of my life. Not because of what I lost, but because of who I became. I let fear dictate my choices, and it turned me into someone I barely recognize. The doctor's words may have planted the seed, but I was the one who watered it with cowardice. I never went home, and that choice has haunted me for years. If I could speak to my younger self, I would tell him, no warning, no fear, no doctor's words are worth abandoning the love of your life.